Man, what is happening, my YouTube family? Of course, it is your boy B New. I'm coming at you on this Saturday morning. I hope everybody had a good holiday weekend and time off and spent some time with your family and all of that good stuff. Now, with all that being said, as you all know, the Los Angeles Lakers wrapped up their, what I believe was a 5-game road trip out east and were returning home to take on the Sacramento Kings at home last night, downtown Los Angeles at the Staples Center. And of course, I'm sure all of you by now who watching this know that the Lakers fell 141-137 to the Sacramento Kings, to the shorthanded Sacramento Kings at that, because they were down 2 starters. And not only that, one of the players who came in to start was injured, I want to say in the 3rd quarter, and did not return. So, I mean, for the Lakers to go out and lose this game, to me, is no excuse for that. But, you know, I'm always encouraged. I try to stay encouraged and have some good takeaways, even in losses. And what I will say, because I did watch that game in its entirety last night, and from what I saw, for the most part, the Lakers actually showed some bit of ball movement. They were actually running some offense. They were actually getting a lot of pick and roll action going with LeBron and AD. They was getting some pick and roll action going with Russ and AD. They were getting some back screens going. They had some Malik Monk running off some screens, and they were making a lot of extra passes. Russ was penetrating to the paint, breaking down the defense, making the correct pass, kicking out to the open players. Malik Monk was having a hell of a game, which we're going to get into some of this here in a little bit. And, of course, you can always point fingers at losses. And I'll do that in just a moment, too, because we know where we can place the brunt of the blame on. And we've been beating this drum for a mighty long time. So don't act like you cannot guess what it was. Now, I keep saying that coaches don't shoot shots. And the Lakers had plenty of opportunity to seal this game. They were up by 13. They were up by 13 in the 4th quarter. They were up by 7 in the 1st overtime. So even after they blew the 13-point 4th quarter lead, once they came out in overtime and were up by 7, you would imagine that they could have easily put this game away. But that really was not the case. And, I mean, LeBron James' shot just was not falling from the 3-point line the way it was in Indiana. And I just put it to you like this, you know, and by no means am I making excuses. And like I said, the Lakers should have come away with the W. But when they left Indiana and their flight, they didn't get home until basically Thanksgiving morning at 2 or 3 in the morning. So you got to understand, you know, then they went, spent time with their families, ate, got together, spent some time with whoever, you know, watched some football. Maybe LeBron didn't get much sleep because how them Dallas Cowboys lost that game. Who knows? But for whatever reason, he was off. And, you know, when you, and I don't know how many of you all are accustomed to traveling and going through different time zones and having jet lag and things of that nature. And like I said, it's no excuse, but I think it kind of contributed to them not being able to finish. You know, of course, the age is a factor a lot of people have been saying, but I'm not really concerned about that. But in the grand scheme of things, I think they'll be fine. But when you travel and you go from the east to the west, I mean, you went through Central Time Zone, Mountain Time Zone, all the way back out west, and you didn't get home to 2 in the morning Western Time, you know, Pacific Time. And then you have all day to eat and do everything like that, and then you come back and play the very next day. And of course, we all know Anthony Davis was already under the weather and had missed the previous game. But, you know, like I said, no excuses. But what I wouldn't put an onus on in that matter is Frank Vogel. Frank Vogel, you went with the same lineup for all 3 overtimes. And you know that you have aging players, and you can see that all of LeBron was like 2 out of 11 or 2 out of 12 from the 3-point line. So obviously he didn't have it going from the three-point line. He had shots. He had better looks tonight than he had in Indiana on some of those knockdown shots he was having against Indiana with hands all in his face. You know, he just missed a lot of open looks. Even, you know, at the end of the game, it was almost, you know, a decent look he had that, you know, could have prevented them from going to overtime, but it just didn't fall. But my thing with Vogel is, how is it that for all 3 overtimes, you played LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Malik Monk, Carmelo Anthony, and Westbrook? So, I mean, 3 overtimes in a row. Now, you got to realize Westbrook played 51 minutes. LeBron and AD both played 48 or 49 minutes, which is a full game, more than a full game. And at LeBron's age, having just, you know, played an overtime game in Indiana, to come around and now you have him in a triple overtime game after traveling, after having the 1 day off, which was Thanksgiving, by the way. You know, I just didn't think it was too smart. And I will say this, you know, and like I said, I'm not blaming everything on coaching, but as a coach, you have to put your players in a position to be successful. And that's what Avery Gentry did, because as we all know, Luke Walton was fired, and I believe rightfully so. And I won't go into all of that. Maybe that's a conversation for another day, but he was let go by the Sacramento Kings. And then, you know, Alvin Gentry, who has been a proven coaching commodity for what he can do as far as his coaching prowess with the different teams that he has coached previously. When it came down to X's and O's, he was more so able to execute and formulate a game plan as far as adjustments throughout the course of the game, unlike Frank Vogel. And what I mean by that is, if you played the same exact lineup for all 3 overtimes, and Malik Monk, who was on fire, by the way, Malik Monk, who shot 72% for the game, Malik Monk, who was 8 out of 11 for the game, who was 4 out of 7 for 3, and one of those threes was real bad, really should have been 4 out of 6, and one of the reasons why that 3 was real bad, it was in the 3rd overtime, is when he finally got a shot. So how is it, you know, he was hot the whole time, but you never drew up a play or got him involved in any sort of action? It's like you lose trust in every other player on your team except for LeBron James or maybe Anthony Davis. And, I mean, for you to play Carmelo the entire 3 overtimes, to play LeBron, AD, and Westbrook the entire 3 overtimes, okay, maybe I get that. Because you feel like you weren't planning for it to keep going to that, and then you play the extra 5, okay, then you play them an extra 5, you weren't planning. But by the 3rd overtime, at that point, you got to realize, hey, you know, maybe I can get some of these players some rest. And what I noticed, and another thing about the coaching is, during the 1st overtime, you know, when the Lakers went up by 7, they just kept going to the same ISO play with LeBron James on the block, and LeBron James was delivering every time, fadeaway splash. Fadeaway splash, fadeaway splash. And then the Lakers went up by 7, and you thought, hey, this is over with. But then what did Gentry do? He made an adjustment. He said, hold on, LeBron James keep having his way down here on the block. Let me send somebody out here with some length. And Bagley, who is 6'10" or 6'11", once he came out to guard LeBron, you know, on the block, it was a little bit different. And I believe had LeBron had fresh legs, you know, he could still take Bagley on the block. He could take anybody with his fadeaway, and maybe off the dribble, and maybe could have took him to the hole, in which I wish he would have did a little bit more of, because he wasn't shooting too bad from the free throw line on yesterday. But once he made that adjustment, you could tell that, you know, Bagley had the length that was bothering, you know, LeBron James. And LeBron James even had a push-off almost and got an offensive foul on one of those plays once Gentry made that adjustment, because he was trying to create separation so he could get to that fadeaway shot because of the length of Bagley. And LeBron James simply, at this point, you know, 37 years old in the triple overtime game, having 1 game off. You know what I'm saying? Now, if this been 25-year-old LeBron, who give a damn about Bagley? He would have took him off the dribble, went to the hole, and yoked on his ass, and probably would have got an and one on somebody. But that's not who he is at this moment. And I know people love to see LeBron James fail and say, oh, is this your goal? And all this stuff, man. Dude, 37 years old. Probably older than half of y'all people that's watching this. Probably been playing in the league just as long as half of people watching this have been alive. But y'all choose to hate on a man for whatever reason, because you want to glorify another man that you probably even never watched play a day in your life. Live anyway, except for highlight films, and you know, we know how media can be, but we're not getting into all that today. So what I'm trying to say is, Gentry made the adjustments, and I'm telling you what, Aaron Fox, that boy got a shot. You understand what I'm telling you? Like, his shot was just silky smooth, and he didn't get under pressure. He really wanted to finish that game. And I mean, when he kept coming down mid-range, it was so silky smooth, a high arch on it. Man, every time he released, I just kind of knew it was going to go in. And you know what? The Lakers played decent defense, but good offense beats good defense every time. And the Lakers played really good defense. And I won't say really good defense, but for the most part, they did. And then another thing, why didn't Vogel bring in Bradley at all? He brings him in with like a minute or two left in overtime and sub him in for Carmelo so you can get some defense going. Why the hell you didn't do that sooner? Because Buddy Hield was broke the whole game. But of course, Buddy Hield woke up in the fourth quarter and in the overtimes, and he's the one who hit the big long three to even make it go to overtime when the game really should have been over. And you just got to give it to him, man. It was a good-ass shot. He shot it from way deep. Steph Curry with the shot. You know what I mean? So, you know, it is what it is. Nobody can't keep thinking about a loss. I mean, the Lakers are under 500 yet again. They're still in 7th place. And unfortunately, my boy Ja Morant went down last night for the Grizzlies, and you saw what the outcome of that was. And without Ja Morant, they're going to fall in those standards, unfortunately. And that's going to open up some room in them. But Jokic still battling his injuries, and Denver Nuggets been struggling. Even if the Lakers below 500, that's showing you that the Eastern Conference right now, if you look at the standings, until you get to a below 500 team, I think it's the 9th seed, you know, in the East versus in the West. The Lakers are the 7th seed right now, below 500, which really they could have been the 6th seed with Portland getting beat down last night against Golden State, and Golden State continued to look amazing. I still think it's plenty of time for the Lakers to figure it out. I just don't know how long they're going to give Frank Vogel to figure it out. And to be quite honest, I really wish they would go ahead and get rid of him and just let Fizdale be the coach, because no way in the hell Fizdale would have went out like Willie Lump like that last night. There's no way that in a triple overtime you continue to go to the same isolation play, because you have no other trust in anybody else. And then once you can see LeBron was so tired by that second overtime, they more start going to the pick and roll with Russ and AD, which I think they should utilize a lot more, because it's pretty tough to defend if it's executed correctly. And they were executing pretty good last night, but at the end of the day, they just didn't have enough. They ran out of gas in that third overtime, and I was kind of thinking that they would, because Frank Vogel was not going to make any substitutions, and you got the same players, and these are older players, mind you, except for Monk and AD, and you got LeBron. Westbrook was 33, 34 years old. LeBron and Carmelo going 3 overtimes. And I mean, the thing about it is, you had THT, who had actually shot the ball pretty good last night. THT was 3 out of 5. So in a triple overtime game in which THT was 3 out of 5, he only played 24 minutes. Please explain to me how THT only played 24 minutes. Because if THT only played 24 minutes, then how is it that he was playing that well but was not given the opportunity? He was playing that well but was not given the opportunity to continue to play. And Malik Monk, who had the hot hand, you didn't draw up any plays for him to play. So why the hell is THT didn't get any kind of opportunity in any of the overtime games? Because he's a slasher at the basketball, who can get to the paint and put pressure on the defense and can create for himself and create for others. And then Wayne Ellington was 2 out of 2 from 3. You know, he was 2 out of 2 from 3. So he had played well the other night. He had the hot hand going, but yet he only had, what, 15 minutes. So in a triple overtime game, you know, you got Wayne Ellington with 15 minutes and THT with 24 minutes. And then you getting killed on the boards. So AD is coming out, getting switched, and then also coming out to help guard the perimeter. Then you're not leaving anybody down in the paint to rebound. So, I mean, you played DJ early in the game, and I'm not saying, hey, I'm a big proponent of DJ, but if you're getting out-rebounded that bad, which they was getting killed on the offensive glass, then put somebody out there, because you gave them what the Lakers had what the Lakers shot 50% for the game. You would think, you know, as a team shooting 50% from the game, especially taking 44 3-point shots, that the Lakers would have won the game. And the Kings shot 45%. But the Kings had 120 shots last night, and the Lakers only had 102 shots last night. So they had 18 more shots opportunities than the Lakers. And that just wasn't due to the rebounding. It was also due to turnovers, because the Lakers gave up, I think, 6 or 7 more turnovers than the Kings. I can't remember exactly how many they had. And then, of course, some timely free throws that were missed that I think they could have perhaps sealed the game. You know, but at the end of the day, Russ showed so much heart, because when the game was really totally out of the reach, the steal he came up with to even bring the Lakers back within 4 with like 1 minute left, and then they still could have potentially sent it to a 4th overtime, because they started to play good defense once he finally decided to put Bradley in. But Malik Monk threw the ball away on the fast break, which really would have cut it down to 2 with like 50 seconds left, and would have put some pressure on Sacramento and would have forced them to have to play defense. Would have forced them to have to go down and get a bucket, and the Lakers could have played defense with 1 more stop and could have went down and potentially tied it up to go to that 4th overtime. But it just wasn't to be. So now it's on to Detroit for Saturday, and as we all know, Isaiah Stewart came out and said that he thought it was on purpose yet again when asked about the elbow from LeBron James, and LeBron James reiterated last night that it was indeed an accident. Neither one of them probably want to continue to talk about it, but I'm sure we're going to see Sunday night who's going to come out with more heart, because I'm pretty sure that Detroit is going to want to put it all on the line for Isaiah Stewart, considering everything that happened and how they were up in that game and end up losing. So even though Detroit is a bottom feeder team, you know, everybody is giving the Lakers their best shot. That's what people don't realize, you know, especially a team like Sacramento. It's an interstate game, you know. They want to battle another California team, and they are going to come out, you know, a division game. They want to come out sharp every time. But, you know, as far as Vogel, his rotations, his lineups, him not substituting at all in 3 overtimes, him continuing to go to the same ISO play with LeBron James, even after Gentry made the adjustment, he should have went to the pick and roll sooner. You know, run some things for your offense. Don't get stagnant, because for the first time in a while this season, the Lakers are actually moving the ball. And for everybody who thought Russell Westbrook was the problem, he's clearly not. He's actually been shooting the 3 a lot better. He's not been having as many turnovers. So, you know, I think the Lakers still have a lot that they can build on this. Still no time to panic. You know, I don't think LeBron James or anybody else in that locker room is panicked. They just know what they need to do. And when they get ahead, they cannot get lackadaisical, because teams are always going to come back and teams are always going to make a run. So you don't want to develop a reputation for yourself as not being able to finish games. And no matter what lead you have, always letting teams get back into it. You understand what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it is what it is. We should see what the Lakers can do. We can see what the Lakers can do on tomorrow. And tomorrow, because they only have one more game off, and then we can go from there. But as always, man, don't worry about it. And, you know, the Lakers will do their thing. I'm really still not concerned. I know it's a quarter of the way through the season, but LeBron James only played 9 games so far, so not really concerned about it. But as always, this is your boy, Be New. I'm saying right on to the real, man, and much love to these haters. I'm up out.